Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Gaura Nityananda. Jaya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Jaya Nityananda. Gone. So this is text number 36, 35. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw the half-filled garden with a variety of prasadam, he was very satisfied. 36. Hey Mata Jagannatha Karina Bhajana, Hey Shuka Mahaprabhu Judaya Nayana. Indeed, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was fully satisfied just to see how Lord Jagannath accepted all the food. Purport. Following in the footsteps of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, a Vaishnava should be fully satisfied simply to see the varieties of food offered to the deity of Jagannath or Radha Krishna. A Vaishnava should not hunger for varieties of food for his own sake, but rather his satisfaction is seeing the varieties of foods cooked to the deity. In the Gauravastakam, Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, writes, Chaturvitha Sri Bhagavat Prasad Sarana Triptin Hari Bhakta Sangam Kritvaiva Triptin Bhajata Sadaiva Vandi Guru Sri Charanarvindam. The spiritual master is always offering 4 kinds of foodstuffs. Delicious food, analyzed as that which can be chewed, sucked, and when the spiritual master sees that the devotees are satisfied by eating Bhagavat Prasadam, he is satisfied. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. The spiritual master's duty is to engage his disciples in preparing various nice foods to offer to the deity. After being offered all this food for distribution as prasadam to the devotees, these activities satisfy the spiritual master, although he himself does not eat or require much variety of prasadam. By seeing the offering and the distribution of Mahaprasad, he himself is encouraged in the devotional service. There's an early translation of this song, Gauravastakam, and it says that the spiritual master is always offering 4 kinds of foodstuffs to their lordships, which can be analyzed as those which are licked up, those which are chewed, those which are drunk, and those which are swallowed. And when the spiritual master sees his disciples are happily taking prasadam, he is also satisfied. So in one line he said, the spiritual master is always Chaturvada. Sri Bhagavat. Spiritual master is always engaged along with his disciples. That was he's engaged along with. So this, I used to meditate on this as because we hear many times. Actually, the guru is doing the puja. We're actually assisting doing the puja. So we're assisting in doing the puja. So, where am I? Am I doing the puja, or is the spiritual master doing the puja? So then I found that the way it was translated, spiritual master is always engaged along with his disciple. So both are doing. Just like the spiritual master is along with the spiritual master, the disciples, he's offering the foodstuffs. So it kind of answers that philosophical, how the deity is accepting it. Does he accept it first, then offer to Guru, and Guru passes it on? But so I found that the better way to understand this. They're doing together. They're serving these Krishna together. Yeah. Anyway, so I like to meditate on that when I was doing the puja seva. That both are doing it. And Guru is present. How is Guru present? We don't see him present. But he's present by his instructions, or by intelligence. Guru becomes our intelligence, actually. Prabhupada told Harikesh, Guru is your intelligence. So, as intelligence, that's Krishna says the senses are higher than the mind is higher than the senses, the intelligence is higher than mind, and the soul is even higher than the mind and intelligence. So the intelligence is like our Guru. We're in the deity room, we're serving the deity. Why? Because by the mercy of the Guru, he has instructed us how to worship, or he's instructed someone previously how to worship. You're taking instructions somehow or another from the Guru who's qualified you to go into the deity room and offer these foodstuffs to their lordships. So, yeah, so they kind of answer that. Both are doing. The Guru is like the intelligence, and we are the mind as far as our higher self is generally the mind. We're higher than the senses. So we are like the mind, and Guru is the intelligence. So he is guiding. The mind is like our higher self, and the Guru is the intelligence. And we are like the mind. We are doing all the different activities, all the service through the agency of the Guru. So control the higher self by the lower self. The lower self means our mind and senses, and the higher self means the intelligence, which is nothing but absorption of the instructions of Guru and manifesting his intelligence. Yeah, so I like that one. The spiritual master is always engaged along with his disciple. Otherwise, we're wondering how is it possible? Somebody told me when I worship Guru, he's up here somewhere. Somewhere, he doesn't know. I meditate on Guru up here. Anyway, is it a philosophical point? I like to use that and meditate on that. Text 36. Indeed, Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu was fully satisfied just to see how Lord Jagannath accepted all the foods, following in the footsteps of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. A Vaishnava should feel, we read this, fully satisfied just to see how Lord Jagannath is accepting all the food. 37. They then arrive 5 or 7 loads of plates made of the leaves of the Caitanya tree. Each man was supplied 10 of these plates, and in this way the leaf dishes were distributed. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu understood the labor of the kirtan chanters, and therefore he is very eager to feed them sumptuously. All the devotees sat down, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally began to distribute prasadam. But the devotees would not accept the prasadam until Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took it. Sri Rupa Damodar informed the Lord of this. Sri Rupa Damodar said, "My dear Lord, please sit down and eat. No one will eat until you do." At that time, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sat down with his personal associates and had every one of them fed very sumptuously until they were filled to the necks. After finishing, the Lord washed his hands and sat down. There was so much extra prasadam that it was distributed to thousands. Following the orders of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Govinda, his servant, called for all the poor beggars who were unhappy due to their poverty, and he fed them sumptuously. Observing the beggars eating prasadam, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "Chant Hari Bol," and instructed them to chant the holy name. Purport: in a song, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur chants, "Michimayera Bashija Kobeshi Kachuha Budu Bubai Jiva Krishna Das Se Vishwash Korleto Adu Kanai." O people, why are you being captivated by the waves of the ocean of nescience? If you would immediately accept Lord Krishna as your eternal master, there will be no chance of being carried away by the waves of illusion. Then all of your sufferings will stop. Krishna conducts the material world under the 3 modes of material nature, and consequently, there are 3 platforms of life: middle, higher, middle, and lower. On whatever platform one may be situated, one is tossed by the waves of material nature. Someone may be rich, and someone may be middle class, and someone may be a poor beggar. It does not matter. As long as one is under the spell of the 3 modes of material nature, he must continue to experience these divisions. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore advised the beggars to chant Hari Bol while taking prasadam. Chanting means accepting oneself as the eternal servant of Krishna. This is the only solution, regardless of the social position. Even if one is suffering under the spell of Maya, everyone is suffering under the spell of Maya, and therefore the best course is to learn how to get out of the clutches of Maya. How to do this is stated by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita 14:26. Mam chayo vyabhacharina bhakti yogana sevate shagunam samalitam brahma bhuyaya kalpate. One who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. One can overcome the spell of Maya and attain the transcendental platform by agreeing to engage in the devotional service of the Lord. Devotional service begins with Shravanam Kirtanam, and therefore Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advised the beggars to chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra for elevation to the transcendental position. On the transcendental position, there is no distinction between the rich, the middle class, and the poor. 46. As soon as the beggars chanted the holy name, Haribo, there was immediately absorption in ecstatic love of Godhead. In this way, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu performed wonderful pastimes. Purport. To feel the emotion of ecstatic love of God is to be on the transcendental platform. If one can keep himself in that transcendental position, he will surely return home back to Godhead. In the spiritual world, there are no higher, middle, and lower classes. This is confirmed in the Ishopanishad 7. Yasmin sarvani bhutani atma bhavad vigyata tatra ko mohaka shoka ekat tram anupashyata. One who always sees all living entities as spiritual sparks in quality, one with the Lord. Become a true follower, becomes a true knower of things. What can be said? What can the illusion or anxiety for him? I read it again. One always sees the living entity as spiritual sparks in quality, one with the Lord, becomes a true knower of things. What then can illusion or what can be illusion or anxiety from him? 47. Outside the garden, it was the time to pull Jagannath's cart. All the workers, called Gaudas, tried to pull it out, but it would not move forward. When the Gaudas saw that they could not budge the cart, they abandoned their attempt. Then the king entered in great anxiety, and he was accompanied by his officers and friends. The king then arranged for big wrestlers to try and pull the cart, and even the king himself joined in, but the cart would not move forward. Becoming even more anxious to remove the cart, the king had very strong elephants, brought forth and harnessed it. His elephants, he brought forth and harnessed to it. The strong elephant pulled with all their strength, but the car remained at a standstill, not budging an inch. As soon as Caitanya Mahaprabhu heard this news, he went there with all of his personal associates, and then stood there and watched the elephants try to pull the car. The elephants, being beaten by the elephant goad, were crying, but still the car would not move. The assembled people cried out, "Alas, alas!" So Srimati, this verse. She looks after the elephant here in Mayapur. But he says they used elephant goads. In the book, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said they were using goad. Here they have bamboo stick. Cruelty to animals, I guess. At that time, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu let all the elephants go free and place the car's robes in the hands of his own men. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then went to the back of the car and began to push with his head. It was then that the car began to move and roll along, making a rattling sound. Indeed, the car began to move automatically, and the devotees simply carried the robes in their hand. Since it was moving effortlessly, they did not pull it. There's no need to pull it. When the car moved forward, everyone began to chant with great pleasure, all glories, Jaya, Jaya, all glories to Lord Jagannath. No one could hear anything else. In a moment, the car reached the door of the Gundicha temple. Upon seeing the uncommon strength of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all the people were struck with wonder. The crowd made a tumultuous vibration, chanting, Jai Gaurachandra, Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya. Then all the people began to chant, wonderful, wonderful. Seeing the greatness of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Prataparudra made Maharaj and his ministers and friends were so moved and ecstatic that their hairs stood on end and on their bodies stood on end. All the servants of Lord Jagannath then took him down from the car, and the Lord went to sit on his throne. Subhadra and Balaram also sat in their respective thrones. There followed the bathing of Lord Jagannath, and finally the offering of food. When Lord Jagannath, Balaram and Subhadra sat on their respective thrones, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his devotees began to offer Samkirtan with great pleasure, chanting, dancing in the yard of the temple. While Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was chanting and dancing, he was overwhelmed with ecstatic love, and all the people who saw him were also flooded in the ocean of love of Godhead. In the evening, after finishing the dancing in the yard of the Gundicha temple, the Lord observed the Artik ceremony. Thereafter he went to the place called Aitota and took rest for the night. For 9 days, 9 chief devotees headed by Advaitacharya had an opportunity to invite the Lord to their homes. During the 4 months of the rainy season, the remaining devotees extended invitations to the Lord for one day each. In this way, they all shared invitations. For the 4-month period, all the invitations were shared among the important devotees. The rest of the devotees did not get an opportunity to extend an invitation to the Lord. Since they could not get one each day, 2 or 3 devotees combined to extend the invitation. These are the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's acceptance of invitations. After taking his bath early in the morning, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would go to see Lord Jagannath in the temple. Then he would perform Samkirtan with his devotees. When chanting and dancing, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu induced Advaita Acharya to dance. Sometimes while chanting and dancing, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu induced Advaita Acharya to dance. Sometimes he danced, and sometimes he induced Lord Nityananda Prabhu, Haridas Thakur, and Achyutananda to dance. Sometimes Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu engaged Bhakteshwar and other devotees in dancing and chanting. 3 times daily, morning, noon and evening, he performed Samkirtan in the yard of the Gundicha temple. 3 times. At this time, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu felt that Lord Krishna had returned to Vrindavan. Thinking this, his feelings of separation from Krishna subsided. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was always thinking of the pastimes of Radha and Krishna, and he remained personally immersed in this consciousness. There were many gardens near the Gundicha temple. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his devotees used to perform the pastimes of Vrindavan. In each one of them, and in the lake named Indradumna, he sported in the water. The Lord personally splashed all the devotees with water, and the devotees surrounding him on all sides also splashed the Lord. While in the water, they sometimes formed one circle and sometimes many circles. And while in the water, they used to play cymbals and imitate the croaking of the frogs.
Prabhupada said this was a Vaishnava sport. Prabhupada said this is a Vaishnava sport, splashing water.
Yeah, wrestling. And swimming. Wrestling and swimming is a Vaishnava sport. While in the water, sometimes two would pair off and fight in the water. One would emerge victorious and the other defeated, and the Lord would watch all this fun. First sporting took place between Advaita Acharya and Nityananda Prabhu, who threw water on each other. Advaita Acharya was defeated, and he later began to rebuke Nityananda Prabhu, calling him ill names. Swarup Damodar and Vidyanidhi, they also threw water on each other. And Murari Gupta and Vasudev Dutt also sported in that way. Another duel took place between Srivas Thakur and Gadadhar Pandit, and yet another between Raghava Pandit and the Prakashwar Pandit. And thus they all engaged in throwing water. Indeed, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya engaged in water sports with Sri Ramananda Roy, and they both lost their gravity and became like children. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw the exuberance of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and Ramananda Roy, he smiled and spoke to Gopinath Acharya. Tell the Bhattacharya and Ramananda Roy to stop their childish play, because they are both learned scholars and very grave and great personalities. Gopinath Acharya replied, I believe that one drop of ocean of your great mercy has swelled up upon them. A drop of your ocean of mercy can drown the entire mountains like Sumeru and Mandara. These two gentlemen are little hills by comparison. It's no wonder they are being drowned by the ocean of your mercy. Logic is like a dry oil cake from which the oil has been extracted. The Bhattacharya passed his life in eating dry cakes, but now you have made him drink the nectar of transcendental pastimes. It is certainly your great mercy upon him.
What is the dry milk cakes?
Dry
milk cake?
Logic is like a dry oil cake from which all the oil has been extracted. Bhattacharya passed his life in eating such dry cakes. But now you have made him drink the nectar of transcendental pastimes. It is certainly your very great mercy on him, because he was leader of the Mayavadi sannyasis. The Mayavadi, he was a leader. He wasn't sannyas. But he was respected as the authority, the great Pandara in Jagannath Puri. So he was, sannyasi means they had to perform austerities. And so that's like eating dry oil cake. So he was eating. But now you've made him drink nectar of transcendental pastimes. So So that is your mercy on him. After Gopinathacharya, did I tell you that story of the sannyasis? They went to take bath in Ganga. Here in Mayapur, early one morning, Prabhupada took his walk down by the Ganga, and they got to the bank of the Ganga, and Prabhupada sprinkled some water on his head. And then he said to the devotees, you can take your bath in Ganga. So they said, Prabhupada, we didn't bring any gamchas or anything. He said, that's okay. You're all sannyasis. You have coping. There's no one here. This was early morning. No one there, even like mid-morning, there was no one there. At that time, there's no one around. He said, there's no one around. So then they went in their coping, and they took bath in it with their copings on. And so they started to play Jalkali, splashing water. It's one of the 64 arts. Krishna and Balaram learned this. And so Prabhupada said, this is okay, you're playing like this. He said, this is Vaishnava sport. Wrestling and swimming. And so he said this is a Vaishnava sport. So you can do that. Then they asked Prabhupada to come in. No, Shrutikirti found Prabhupada, he had a gamcha. So he gave Prabhupada the gamcha. And then, so Prabhupada they asked him to come in. He went into the river Ganges and took his little dip. And then the devotees, they went to Prabhupada and they started to give him abhishekam with water. They were getting their hands and they were pouring water on Prabhupada. And they were chanting, Chintamani prakara sadmasukalpa prik. Abhishek sam. When you pray the deities, Prabhupada said, you can chant Chintamani prayer. Chintamani prakara sadmasukalpa prika. Laksar videsha shuravira vipalayantam. Lakshmi sahasra satasham brahmase vimanam. Govindamadi prusham. Tamaham bhajami. Then one of his disciples, sannyasi, he started to splash Prabhupada. Gently, not heavy. Just a little. Right? Playing. So he went up to Prabhupada and Prabhupada looked at him and said, don't become too familiar with your guru. It's very grave. Don't become too familiar with your guru. After Gopinathacharya finished taking his talking, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu smiled and called for Advaitacharya and made him act like the Sheshanaga bed. He turned Advaita into it in the Sheshanaga. Lying down on Advaita Prabhu, who was floating on the water, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu demonstrated the pastime of Sheshai Vishnu. Because this is Vishnu Tattva.
Lying down on water means Mahavishnu step that you do?
Like, now the Shesh lies down, and then Krishna comes, or Vishnu comes and sits, or lays on his body. So they were enacting that pastime. Prabhupada said there was that they were at the ocean side, and someone had an airbed. What do you call it? Lilo, we used to call it. Like a mattress, rubber mattress. Mm-hmm. You blow up the rubber mattress, and then so you can lay on it. So Prabhupada saw these people at the beach and on the ocean, and they were just relaxing, and Prabhupada said, "You see," he said, "this is the idea coming from Shesh Naga, Ananta Shesh. They're getting the idea from Ananta Shesh. Very comfortable." Manifesting his personal potency, Advaita Acharya floated on the water, carrying Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. After sporting in the water for some time, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu returned to his place at Aitota. Tota means garden, I think. Aitota. Accompanied by his associates and devotees, Paramananda Puri, Brahmananda Bharati, and all the other chief devotees, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took lunch at the invitation of Advaita Acharya. Whatever extra prasadam was brought by Bhandinath Roy was taken by the other associates of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In the afternoon, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to the Gundicha temple to visit the Lord and dance. At night, he went into the garden to take rest. Here it said, when he arrived at the Gundicha, then they put him inside. It appears like the same. He arrived, Jagannath arrived, and then they moved the deities inside the Gundicha temple. And then they offered an artik and bathed the Lord. But nowadays, Jagannath and Balaram stay out for a few nights.
Outside the gate.
Gundicha, they're still on their car. I've seen personally. I didn't stay up the whole night, but late into the night, everyone was sitting around the cart, and all the different groups, the owls, bows, and all these different types of music, ekatar, all these groups of devotees of Lord Jagannath, they're all having a party. Jagannath and Balaram and Subhadra there, and these different groups having a party for Jagannath. But nowadays they stay out for a few days. Here it indicates he went only at the same time they went back. The next day, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to the temple of Gundicha and saw the Lord. He then chanted and danced in the yard for some time. Accompanied by his devotee Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then went to the garden and enjoyed the pastimes of Vrindavan. Purport, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has pointed out that this Vrindavan Vivaha, the pastimes of Vrindavan, does not refer to Krishna's mixing with the gopis or the transcendental mellow of Parakiya Rasa. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Vrindavan Lila in the garden of Jagannath Puri did not involve association of women or with other people's wives in the fashion transcendentally demonstrated by Sri Krishna. Vrindavan Lila, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in his Vrindavan Lila, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu conceived himself as the assistant of Srimati Radharani. When Srimati Radharani enjoyed the company of Krishna, her maidservants were very pleased. One should not compare Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Vrindavan Vivaha in the garden of Lord Jagannath with the pastimes of the Gauranga Nagaris. These are an upper sampradaya Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati generally doesn't have much. They're like Sahajiya group. who preach to these, heavy to these people.
What are their misconceptions?
Hmm?
What idea do they have, Gauranga Nagari?
Well, Bhaktisiddhanta pointed out to them that he was preaching that I'm not sure if this is Gauranga Nagari, but they chant that mantra, Nitai Gaur Radha Shyam Hare Krishna. Anyway, he said you are making a Rasa Bhasya. Nitai Gaur Radha Shyam, you're putting Nitai Gaur and Radha Shyam together. You shouldn't have Nityananda with Krishna, the elder brother. So Rasa Bhasya is there. And he said that he named one of his disciples as Lalita Devi, who is the internal potency of the Lord. So you're equating a jiva to the impersonal, the internal energy of the Lord. So in this way he defeated the logic but anyway, they worship Radha and Krishna, they worship Gaunitai, but they bring it down to the mundane level. So then it becomes Radha, Krishna, boy, girl. They imitate the activities of Krishna's Rasa Lila. So then they mix everything, get everything mixed up, and so they bring it down to the mundane plane, what's purely transcendental. Many different sampradayas. 11, is it? 11 or 12 or 13. But they distort the pure teachings, the pure Vaishnava teachings of Caitanya Mahaprabhu. So Bhaktisiddhanta was a heavy preacher against. He was there at that time when they were flourishing, so he had to do a lot of heavy preaching. But then most of these groups are still around.
In Jagannath Puri, we still hear this Nitai Gaur Radha Shyam.
Yeah.
In prominent places like Kumbh.
Yeah, in the major places, Gundicha is there, Haridas Thakur Samadhi. Nitai Gaur Radha Shyam Japa Hare Krishna Hare Ram, something like that. Anyway, Prabhupada said, they're chanting Krishna's name, so there's going to be some benefit there, somehow or another. They're chanting Krishna's names. So they're devotees of sorts. They're just a bit misguided. They dress up as gopis sometimes also. They dress up as gopi, put a sari on.
Even men.
Huh?
Even men.
The men, yeah. Yeah, I've seen them. They came here one time, walking up the road, and I looked at, what was that? Here there is someone dressed up in a sari and everything, jeweled, bangles. When I looked, he had all hairs coming out of his chin. Yeah. So Rastabhash, contradictory. There were multifarious trees and creepers in the garden, and they were all jubilant to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Indeed, the birds were chirping and the bees were buzzing and a cool breeze was blowing. As Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu danced beneath each and every tree, Vasudeva Datta sung along. As Vasudeva Datta sang a different song beneath each and every tree, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu danced there in great ecstasy. A lot of songs. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then ordered Rakeshwar Pandit to dance, and as he began to dance, the Lord began to sing. The devotees like Sri Damodar and other kirtan performers began to sing along with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, being inundated with ecstatic love. They all lost consideration of time and circumstance. After thus performing this pastime in the garden for some time, they all went to the lake called Navendra Sarovara, and they enjoyed sporting in the water. After sporting in the water, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu returned to the garden and accepted prasadam with the devotees. For 9 continuous days, His Lordship, Jagannath Dev, stayed in the Gundicha temple. During this time, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also stayed there and performed the pastime with his devotees that have already been described. Purport. Text. The garden of his pastimes was very large and was named Jagannath Ballabh. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took his rest there for 9 days. Jagannath Ballabh Gardens, is that where Ramananda Roy lives? Okay. Yeah, he's got his sword there also. Knowing that the Hera Panchami festival was drawing near, King Pataparudra attentively talked with Kashi Mishra. Tomorrow is the function of Hera Panchami, or Lakshmi Vijay. Hold this festival in a way it's never been held before. The Hera Panchami festival takes place 5 days after the Rath Yatra festival. Lord Jagannath has left his wife, the goddess of fortune, and gone to Vrindavan, which is the Gundicha temple. Due to separation from the Lord, the goddess of fortune decided to come and see the Lord at Gundicha. The coming of the goddess of fortune is elaborately celebrated. It is celebrated here as Panchami, Hera Panchami. Sometimes this is misspelled as Hara Panchami among the Atibadis, and that's another group. Sometimes this is misspelled as Hara Panchami among the Atibadis. The word Hera means to see and refers to the goddess of fortune going to see Lord Jagannath. The word Panchami means the 5th day and is used because this takes place on the 5th day of the moon. Text 108. King Prataparudra said, hold this festival in such a way, gorgeous way, that upon seeing Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he will become completely pleased and astonished. Take as many cloths, many bells, umbrellas, chamras as there are in my storehouse and in the deity's storehouse. Collect all kinds of small and large flags and ringing bells. Then decorate the carriers and have various musical dancing parties. Music and dancing parties accompanied. In this way, decorate the carrier attractively. You should also double the quantity of Mahaprasad. Make so much that it even surpasses the Rath Yatra festival. arranged the festival in such a way that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu may freely go with his devotees to visit the deity without difficulty. In the morning, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took his personal associates with him and went to see Lord Jagannath at Sundarachala, Nilachala and Sundarachala. Sundarachala is the Gundicha temple. The temple of Jagannath at Jagannath Puri is called Nilachala. The temple at the Gundicha is called Sundarachala. Then Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his personal devotees returned to Nilachala and with great eagerness to see the Hera Panchami festival. Kashi Mishra received Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with great respect and taking the Lord and his associates to a very nice place, he had them seated. After taking his seat, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to hear about a particular mellow of devotional service. Therefore, mildly smiling, he began to question Swarup Damodar. Although Lord Jagannath enjoys his pastimes at Dwarkadam and naturally manifests sublime liberality there, still, once a year he comes out. Once a year he becomes unlimitedly eager to see Vrindavan. Pointing out the neighboring gardens, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said all these gardens exactly resemble Vrindavan, and therefore Lord Jagannath is very eager to see them. Externally, he gives the excuse that he wants to participate in Rath Yatra festival, but actually he wants to leave Jagannath Puri and go to Sundarachala, the Gundicha Marjan temple, the replica of Vrindavan. The Lord enjoys his pastimes day and night in various flower gardens there. But why he did not take Lakshmi Ji, the goddess of fortune, with him? Swarup Damodar replied, "My dear Lord, please hear the reason for this. Lakshmi Devi, the goddess of fortune, cannot be admitted into the pastimes of Vrindavan. In the pastimes of Vrindavan, the only assistants are the gopis. But for the gopis, no one can attract the mind of Krishna." The Lord said, using the car festival as an excuse, Krishna goes there with Subhadra and Baladev. All the pastimes with the gopis take place in these gardens, are very confidential ecstasies of Lord Krishna. No one knows them. Since there is no fault in Krishna's pastimes, in all of Krishna's pastimes, why does the goddess of fortune become angry? Swarup Damodar replied, "It is the nature of a girl afflicted by love to become immediately angry upon finding any neglect on the part of her lover." While Swarup Damodar and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu were talking, the procession of the goddess of fortune came by. She was riding on a golden palanquin, carried by 4 men and bedecked with various jewels. The palanquin was also surrounded by people carrying umbrellas, chamras, whisks, and flags. And it was preceded by musicians and dancing girls. The maidservants were carrying water pitchers, chamras, whisks, and boxes for betel nuts. There were hundreds of maidservants, all attractively dressed and wearing valuable necklaces. In an angry mood, the goddess of fortune arrived at the main gate of the temple, accompanied by many members of her family, all of whom exhibited uncommon opulence. When the procession arrived, the maidservants of the goddess of fortune began to arrest the principal servants of Lord Jagannath. They bound the maidservants the maidservants bound the servants of Lord Jagannath and handcuffed them and then made them fall down and lay at the lotus feet of the goddess of fortune. Indeed, they were arrested just like thieves who have all their riches taken away. Purport. When Lord Jagannath starts his festival, car festival, he gives assurance to the goddess of fortune he will return the next day. When he does not return, the goddess of fortune, after waiting 2 or 3 days, begins to feel that her husband is neglecting her. She naturally becomes quite angry. Gorgeously decorated herself and her associates, she comes out of the temple and stands at the main gate. All the principal servants of Lord Jagannath are arrested by the maidservants and brought before her and forced to fall down at her lotus feet. When the servants fell down before the lotus feet of the goddess of fortune, they almost fell unconscious. They were chastised and made the butt end of jokes and loose language. Then Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu's associates saw such impudence exhibited by the maidservants of the goddess of fortune. They covered their faces with their hands and began to smile. Sri Damodar said, "There is no egoistic pride within the 3 worlds." Sri Damodar said, "There is no egoistic pride like this within the 3 worlds. At least, I've never seen or heard of it. When a woman is neglected and disappointed out of egoistic pride, she gives up her ornaments and morosely sits and draws on the ground, marking it with her nails." I have heard of this kind of pride in Satyabhama, Krishna's proudest queen. I've also heard of it in the temples of Vrindavan, who are the reservoirs of all transcendental mellows. But in the case of the goddess of fortune, I see a different kind of pride. She manifests her own opulences and even goes with her soldiers and attacks her husband. After seeing the impudence of the goddess of fortune, Sri Damodar wanted to inform Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu about the super excellence of the gopis' loving affairs. He therefore said, "My dear Lord, I've never experienced anything like this behavior of the goddess of fortune. We sometimes see a beloved wife becoming proud of her position and then frustrated due to some neglect. Then she gives up caring for her appearance and accepts dirty clothing and morosely sits on the ground and draws lines with her toes. We have heard of such egoistic pride in Satyabhama and the gopis of Vrindavan. But what we see in the goddess of fortune here at Jagannath Puri is completely different. She becomes very angry with her husband and attacks him with her great opulence." Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "Please tell me the varieties of egoistic pride manifest in Vrindavan." Swarup Damodar replied, "The pride of the gopis is like the river flowing with hundreds of tributaries." Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Concluding words?
Hmm?
Words of conclusion?
What are the words of conclusion? Well, they're saying that the pride exists there between the gopis and Krishna, and they exhibit this pride. then after that, after being after trying to console the gopis for a long time, eventually they submit themselves and lose the pride, and then they can enjoy with Krishna. But in the case of the guards of the queen, the goddess of fortune, and the entourage, they become actually angry. She becomes actually angry. And even to the extent of bringing some weapons, like almost going to attack her husband. And the maidservants, so they attacked the guards. The guards of Lord Jagannath, and tie them up, throw them on the ground at their feet, the gopis. But you apologize. And then she goes off. She goes off in a huff. She's the victorious huff. But just see my power. So the gopis would never do that. They use their pride. They use their pride suitably to increase Krishna's attraction for them and his longing to be with them. So they use their pride to enhance the pastimes of Krishna. And then they give it up. And then they enjoy with Krishna. That was the main idea behind it. But the goddess of fortune are maintaining that so-called enmity. Our pride will come in, we smash everything and break the chariot wheels. And then go home victorious. So it's a different attitude. And the way they use their pride in Vrindavan is different.